Well, offensively, I mean, there were a lot of changes there with the coaching staffs. Defensively, and let's move to that side of the ball here. We haven't had as many changes from a coaching staff perspective, but there definitely has been some changes on the roster. Here are some updates today, some of the quotes. Newsom talked about how the newcomers have raised the competition level and how he doesn't consider any position locked up. That goes back to the competition stuff I know I like to hear. Garrett Nelson on the development of Blaze Gunnerson and Jamari Butler. I would put them on the field right now. Nick Henrich, he said the first name he mentioned regarding defensive lineman who stood out is Nash Hetmacher. Big and strong. He takes up bodies up there. Garrett also said his voice was a little rough following the first day of practice as he took it upon himself to get guys pumped up, which isn't all surprising. And lastly, Nelson said it's been good to have one voice on the front four as Mike Dawson-Slice, the defensive line coach, but still works with the edge guys as Nebraska plays a lot of 2 D linemen, 2 outside linebacker fronts. And he praised the growth of Gunnerson and Jamari Butler. So, defensively, and that you asked a question that I'm going to make this specific to defense, Jim. You asked a question about what are 1 or 2 things you'd like to see get accomplished if you were Shenander. I'll ask that to you first, I guess. What your top 1 thing on defense? What is something you think is critical that Shenander gets accomplished during the spring?
Find a pass rusher. I mean, I think it's obvious from his discussion today that we're definitely moving towards a 4-man front, and I think it works out well that Dawson's going to be coaching all 4 of those guys up in the front because I think that's pretty evident that this is going to be the way that it looks because it has to in the Big Ten. But with that being said, we haven't had an edge rusher, and I think the player that I am most excited about seeing to see if they can take that next step is Jamari Butler, because I mean he's one of the guys that coming out of high school. Again, it's high school, but he was a sack artist. So now he's put on the weight. He's transitioned into this outside linebacker, 245 pounds. Can he be someone that rushes the passer? Because you look at last year's defense, and I mean, it was a good defense, but one thing that they did not do is they could not create pressure. And so do we have that person? I feel a little better about the front line than I did maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I was kind of thinking about how I was going to look, without Daniels and Stilley. But I think if we can create more of these 4-man fronts and bring more of these big edgy guys down, I think it kind of like Wisconsin does it a little bit. You're going to have some success there, but that's probably number 1 is find a guy that at least can show some promise of being a pass rusher.
Dave?
Yeah, I would probably echo that. I think that probably the biggest question mark is D-line, and so someone who can get to the QB. We just haven't had that in a long time. I've been digging through the archives, and you dig through like the Randy Gregorys of the world, and you're like, wouldn't that be nice? But I feel good about the linebackers in particular. I think with Reimer and Henrich and Nelson, like you've got 3 of the best tacklers in the Big Ten coming back. And I think that you feel strong about that, our ability to tackle, our ability to wrap up. And I think that's what made the D so strong. I think the secondary is pretty strong too. So I think that, that the D line becomes the big question mark is can you stop the run up front? It's just such a bruising conference that it's so hard to be like, why do we not have better, why do we not have better guys up front when it's such a bruising conference and we've done such a good job everywhere else? But I think they'll surprise some people.
Murphy twins, huh? Rob, what about you on defense?
Well, it would help if I turned my mic on. I just want to see a lot of the same as what I saw last year. Again, for me, it's consistency. The defense last year was the one part of the team where anytime they went out on the field, I felt like they were the ones giving us a chance, right? They're the reason why we had so many 1-score losses.
Yeah. Well, they were more than 1 score because the defense kept us in it. Yeah.
And and it was interesting to hear Frost say that he's going to get to spend more time with the defense. I'm not quite sure exactly, if that means that the defense is going to be better. I mean, I try not to look at things like for me, defense is a unit thing, right? Like you don't necessarily always want to have like the individual stars, right? Like in the NFL, like Max Crosby might be one of the best pass rushers in the game, but he may not be the one getting all the sacks, but he's going to be the one taking all the attention to open it up for other guys to be getting those sacks, right? And so, and if you can see the continuity with the defense from last year and just see these guys that were maybe behind some of these other starters coming in and, continuing that type of aggressiveness that we saw last year. And I already think that our cornerbacks and safeties are just going to be a better unit as it is. There was a lot of guys that are coming back there. We added a few players.
That's big. That's a lot of people to replace there.
You're replacing, Cam Taylor-Britt and both of the safeties. Now, I like the talent, and I think Farmer's been productive. He's made interceptions and everything when he's been out there on the field, but just Muke and Williams were the quarterbacks of the defense for a number of years. My thing, the front seven, I think there's a big difference between 3-4 and 4-3. And Jim, when you had the issue about a month ago, and we were talking about the depth looks totally different if we're in a 4-3 or a 3-4. We don't look like we have a lot of defensive linemen if we're in a 3-4, but you get into the 4-3 where we need 2 defensive tackles. Well, we've got some depth there. We've got 6-7 bodies that could be that. If your DNs aren't 280-pound DNs, but they are outside linebackers, Gunnarsson and Taylor and Nelson, all of a sudden, it's moving some guys around. Honestly, it feels like 1992 to me when we were going from 5-2 to 4-3. Trev Alberts is your outside linebacker, and he's a good player. He was all conference level as an outside linebacker, put his hand in the turf, and he has 15 sacks in the 4-3, and he's a Butkus Award winner when he shouldn't have won the Butkus. He was an outside line, or he was a DN. He wasn't an outside linebacker. Grant Wistrom was in the exact same position 3 years later, won the Lombardi. Point is, that change, and to have Dawson be right in this, as they said, hey, Dawson's coaching your outside linebackers, your edge rushers, but he's coaching the 2 D tackles and the 2 outside linebackers. Well, that sounds like a 4-3.
Right.
Yeah. But
and if that's the case, I think it's actually, I hated losing Tony Teote, but if you think about that now, if we had 2 coaches coaching the D line, it'd be kind of awkward. So it's almost, it definitely feels like a natural progression to have Dawson coach the entire D line that includes the outside linebackers now that in more of that 4-man front. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Well, you go back to the linebackers, like you said, Dave, that's a loaded area. Reimers, they did say, I don't know if he's just being limited this spring, but
so he's out. He's out.
Out total. Okay, so
he's out. So you're gonna have Mauga Clements. He's gonna be the starter now in the spring, and I guess he's done really well according to Henrich. So he'll get a ton of reps there, and we'll see what he's got now in his last year.
You still have Randolph Kapai from Sioux Falls, Ernest Hausman from my neck of the woods in Columbus, Nebraska. He's either going to be – is he inside? I think they have him starting at inside right now.
They do, yeah.
Starting off at that. Kolarevich is actually going to be in the competition for the nickel spot, which I thought was really interesting, which is basically replacing Doman. And so with Javen Wright and
Gifford.
Gifford are going to be the 3 guys going for nickel. A concern that I know that you have, Jim, and I'm going to I'll share it.
Yeah.
By the end of last season, once Daniels was out, once Stilley I guess played through it to the end, but once we didn't have Daniels and once we didn't have Doman playing, which was after the Ohio State game, and now you're playing Wisconsin and Iowa, 2 of the big brutes, running teams. We struggled a little bit with some of the run D. How much does that concern you right now? Obviously, that we got to replace those guys. Daniels. There's video I've watched of Daniels against Iowa Center, Lindenbaum or whatever, and and more than handling them at times. But I don't know that we had another guy that was going to be able to do the same thing if he wasn't on the field.
We'll see. The defense against Iowa was a lot different than we saw against Michigan State. Granted, we didn't have Dolman, we didn't have Williams, we didn't have Daniels, but it's a concern. I think for me, the D line is the biggest concern of the entire team. I think that's my number one. I actually feel pretty good. Kind of going back to Dave's point about the offensive line, there's so much depth there, and so much, I think, untapped talent. I feel better about Riello being able to find something that works up front. But the D line, again, going back to what Dave said, you got to stop the run in the Big Ten. If you can't stop the run, as Iowa did against us in that game, the last game of the season, there was times when they literally just had quarterback handoff run game and the guy would get 6-7 yards at a pop. So if we can't stop that, I mean, that's a big concern. So I'm curious to see how they plug and play and find these pieces and find these different these players that can fit into Chandler's schemes and be able to, at the end of the day, stop the run, because if we can't do that, you know, we might have Texas again last year. I mean, we could throw for a ton of yards, but if we can't stop the run in the Big Ten, it's not going to be pretty.
Dave, I've said I want guys, and well, Rob has said, you know, if you're not playing right now, you're dead to me. And I've said, you know, this spring I want guys, you know, here in the spring if they're going to be playing in the fall. But the reality is, to Jim's point there, do you think we're hitting the portal after this semester? You know, whether it's a Mathis from TCU or these Murphy twins or whoever. I mean, I don't even know, to be honest with you, I'm not even sure who the Murphy twins are, but I'll look this up afterwards. And, you know, I just can't remember every one of these names until you're like in Lincoln. Half the time, I just don't even, you know, pay attention to some of those names. But the point, Dave, is are we hitting the portal in that front seven, especially the front four, do you think, after this semester? Or do you think this spring we're able to develop, you know, Black and who are some of the other young guys there, Weaver and Buckley, and we're feeling pretty good at the end of this spring, and we don't need to hit the portal.
The answer is always probably both, right? Like, you're developing as much as you can, let the best man win, and then you see where you're at, and you're sort of, you know, these guys are always out recruiting, and I think that's what is so interesting about the transfer portal is, you know, it's almost like the game has changed completely in that guys you recruited 3, 4, 5 years ago are all of a sudden back. Right? Like, if you leave a good impression with a 17-year-old and he's 22 and a grad transfer and he all of a sudden is like, I really like Mickey Joseph, you know, all of a sudden they're back. And so I think you're always recruiting, you're always trying to find transfer guys. So I think it's always both. I hope we can develop the guys that we have, because I would agree it's pretty hard to find a guy in June that starts in September. But yeah, if they're not stepping up, then you got to go find somebody else.
Well, stepping up, you can get on the field on defense. You can also go on the field on special teams. And we have a new special teams coordinator, Bill Bush. He was asked how serious was he about proving special teams, and he said everyone is available to play, including quarterback Matt Masker, who ran down the field on a kickoff coverage today wearing his green jersey. So, you know, he's definitely the emphasis is there. I have total confidence in Bill Bush. By the way, that you can go back and listen to our show a year ago, before he even came here as an analyst, and I was already singing his praises, opened up a Bush Light, and, you know, I was like, let's get this guy here. I don't care if he's here as an analyst, just get him hired and back here. I love Bill Bush. I remember watching him. I'd go to those coaches' clinics dating back to the Solich years, and I can remember Bush talking at him, and he was outstanding. And he's a Pender, Nebraska guy, too. I mean, for what it's worth, I always have a warm spot in my heart for Husker guys coming back home. And anyways, Frost talked about special teams, and here's what's important to him right now.
We got to punt it well, kick it well, and have some guys that are dangerous in the return game. And for the most part, I thought our coverage units did a good job last year. There's still improvement to be made. I think we got some guys that are going to be able to catch the ball and do something with it, and we got to punt it well and make our kicks, and we hopefully added some guys that are going to be able to do that and are bringing some guys back.
Rob, did you say you had a chance at Northern Colorado? He lives up in Greeley. Did you have a chance to go and see our punter from Montana kick last year?
I mean, in all fairness, it is in Greeley. So, you know, yeah, but I think at one point, I saw him kick like a 75-yard punt, something fantastic like that. I mean,
he was texting the group. He was texting the group about some guy from Montana. He's like, this dude's amazing. And then like a month and a half later,
and I really was. I was in the stands because it was the day of the Michigan. Oh no, it wasn't the Michigan game. That was Eastern Washington. But there was a game I was at. Yeah, and I was texting. I was like, "Holy cow! Like, I wish we could have this." And it was. I mean, yeah. I mean, you're seeing these like FCS punters that are kicking the ball 65, 70 yards, and yeah.
Yeah, well, he won whatever like the punting award is at the FCS level.
Yeah, he won the Ray Guy punting award.
Is it for Ray Guy? I've heard of that guy.
So
he played for some team that.
Don't get him on the Raiders. Don't get him on the Raiders. So Jim, I'll go to you here. Yeah. You know, Frost at different points has said, "Hey, last year special teams was we were just a kicker away, or we were just a returner away." Is that what it is? Was it a specialist thing, or did we have some fundamental things that Bush is coming in to fix too? Or is it literally just we just need a better kicker and a better punter and a better returner, and man, that's it?
I actually agree with Frost here. I really do. I think it just comes down to a couple pieces. I thought Dawson did a fairly good job. I mean, I don't think Dawson. I mean, obviously the first game against Illinois, Cam Taylor-Britt muffs that punt. First game, I mean, that was killer. But as the season progressed, I thought it improved. I've obviously the missed punt against Michigan State. But if you have a punter, if you have a kicker that can do those things and do them well, and have a returner, I mean, the changes so much of that defense or so much of the special teams. I think I agree with Frost. I think you get Bush in there, and he's got his ability to get the guys he wants on those units. You have Frost and a renewed interest in special teams, apparently. And, you get Trey Palmer and you get these guys back there that are used to returning kicks and having success doing that. I mean, Palmer has 2 touchdowns returning kicks. And, and so you get Ray Guy back there and we're good. So,
I was going to say, Dave, what has you more excited right now? The new punter, the new kicker, or is it Palmer returning some kicks and punts next year?
God, I mean, it's just – can we just got to get like basic confidence? Bo Rude on the Nick Baugh podcast a couple months ago, because he was on the same team as Bush back in what was that, probably like 2011 must have been.
05 to like 07 would be like
05 to 7. Sorry, I'm off by a couple years. His perspective is he was like special teams they were just solid. They just existed. Like we didn't think about it. It wasn't this big thing. Like right now it's this like big elephant in the room of like, what are we going to screw up? He's like, it's just a thing. Like they went out there and the punter always punted it. The kicker always made his kicks. Like we kicked the kickoffs, did the kickoffs, and like every once in a while we'd spring a kick. And you're like, I think there's optimism of like, oh man, will Trey Palmer bring a kickback? Yes, that'd be awesome. But at the same time, like literally like the expectation is like, just, Michigan State, Michigan State. Hey, don't kick it, don't kick it to the wrong side of the field. We've had multiple 11-yard punts. It's like the expectation is so low at this point that it's like, just be normal. Just be fine.
Iowa having the wrong protection for
protection. I mean, it's just be fine. Like if you were if they were neutral, we're an 8-win team. Neutral.
That's why it's such a big deal to us, right? So we've lost all these. I've went over those stats all the time. We lost all these close games, right? And then I think I counted up that we had 46 points scored on us in unconventional ways last year. Unconventional meaning not scored against our defense. So that means some offensive things. We had an interception return for a touchdown. We had a fumble return for a touchdown. But we also had a kickoff return for a touchdown. We had a punt return for a touchdown. We had a punt block for a touchdown. We have a guy catch the ball in the end zone on a punt for some reason, and 10 feet in front of us, because we were there, Rob, at Illinois, throws the ball over his head. And that happened. I went to the Oklahoma game and watched an extra point get blocked and returned for 2 points. It just adds up. And it's all these little points, little things here and there. But, oh, my gosh, before you know it, you've given up 46 points that your defense didn't allow, and you've lost 9 games by single digits, and you've lost 8 games by 1 score or less. And, but is special teams a big deal? I mean, I would just take competent, obviously. We kick 11-yard punts against Michigan State and turn around the next week, and the same punter kicks 84 yards against Northwestern. I don't get it. That Northwestern game got done. I just felt like, oh my God, we just like shot our whole load in one night. Like every good thing that could possibly happen, it felt like it happened in one 60-minute game. And, everything was going right then. But
yeah.
So what you're saying is that 311 needs to have a concert that I go to every single time Nebraska plays, because that's where I was when they played Northwestern. And
Northwestern night? We do.
Yeah. So that would be good. I had a video on my phone of the Cam Taylor-Britt debacle, and I think I watched it probably 50 times, and I finally deleted it off my phone. It's kind of like, wondering if I should text my ex or something. It was like I kept watching it over and over again, and finally I deleted it like 2 months ago, and I'm like, okay, slate is clean.
Slate is clean.
Yeah, well, because that really happened, like literally like 20 feet in front of us.
Yeah, we were in that corner of the end zone. But the crazy thing with that punt catch, that
punt drop, punt.
Well, no, he
whatever,
caught it.
debacle.
He caught it.
Yeah, and then
He was running right at us against Illinois. He's running right at us, and it looked funny. Like for seconds leading up to it, it's like why is he even doing this? Why are you running to the end zone? This is clearly, when you get to about the 8-yard line, you don't drop back any further, and he's running to a weird spot to catch a punt to begin with, and then he catches it. It's like, oh, what? And then throws it over his head. And I mean, like I said, Mac quit the show after that game. He was just like, I'm done. I'm done.
Oh, you're bringing back some dark memories.
I was standing until that point, and I was like, all right, sunburn, bring it on. Like literally forgot my sunscreen. I'm turning red, but I'm thinking, okay, this is gonna be the greatest day ever, right? This is it. This is where we turn that corner. I've never been so depressed in my entire life.
Well, we've talked about offense, we talked about defense, we talked about special teams. It's time to close up. And I wanted to do something unique for our two guests, for Jim and Dave. I wanted to do a little segment we call You Tweeted It. And we'll start with Dave, man. And I
only if Husk
Dave.
Guys promise not to yell at me again.
No, these are all positive ones. I don't think nothing to be ashamed of. We talked about it earlier, Dave. The talent, the reasons to be excited, and here, 4-star quarterback Thompson and Purdy, and 4-star receivers Palmer, Bonner, and Crawford, and Palmer is a 5-star according to some of the services. Here's a 4-star running back Allen. Of course, I'm not even sure. Yeah, this was February 2nd, but yeah, there's 4-star Grant too, right? Here's these 4-star cornerbacks. So, as you're posting this, Dave, your thoughts is it just this infusion of talent just had you so excited that day?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we sort of talked about a lot, right? Is like any of this, the transfer portal talent and our ability to fill a lot of the holes that we were hoping to fill. I think just the talent excuse isn't there. We got the players, and now it's development and execution. And can we get this talent to execute? I think is like the big question, right? Is like, can Frost motivate them to reach their potential? Can Mickey Joseph motivate them to reach their potential? Is Whipple the right offense? But look at that. I mean, it's, we had questions at quarterback. We got 2 4-stars. We had questions at depth at wide receiver. You got 3 Mickey Joseph guys. Boom. Just like that. He shows up and within a month, he's got 3 4-stars that he's got lining up. So, I think in that regard, there's hope for optimism, because you're like, wow, okay, now there's just an infusion of talent. It's going to push everybody else. They got to step their game up. And so, I think that you can't help but not be excited about that.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Now, you talk about the players that we got. As we all know, if you hadn't heard this, there's one player we didn't get back in the day. In fact, Bill Bush got him to come to LSU. This one, dude, I just cracked up. During the Super Bowl, Joe Burrow has been sacked Super Bowl record 7 times tonight, so it's almost as if he's getting a taste of what it would have been like to play at Nebraska anyways. Dude, that's good.
It's funny because it's like, God, that storyline is so played out so poorly. And I love Joe Burrow. Like, yeah. I'm probably on the camp that, like, if he came here, he would have made us remarkably better. I mean, that dude just has it. He's got the total package. He's got the swagger, the confidence, the arm strength. He would have made us way better, but he would not have been anywhere near what he was at LSU. He goes to LSU and he's got all world wide receivers and the best offensive line, 15 NFL draft picks or 20 NFL draft picks on that team. We just didn't have that. So I think it's like, what can that guy do when he's got, 7 sacks? I mean, he got sacked like an NFL record all season. So yeah, he's getting a little taste of it.
And last one, I'm guessing this. So this is a ESPN game day one, and it has to be from November-ish when Frost is being retained. And basically, the quote there is, do you know how easily this team can flip their record and be 7-3 or 8-2? So I guess it goes back to what we said at the beginning. Now, here's the ESPN guys sitting there. They recognized, how close Nebraska was. Just one more reason, I guess, not to blow the whole program up and start from scratch, right?
I think it's encouraging when you see that the folks who tend to ride us pretty hard, that, are critical of us, when they come out and they're like, yeah, like, I watch the games. I am flabbergasted that you're 3-9.
Joel Klatt said that a number of times.
Joel Klatt said a number of times. And even, as I dig up a lot of these highlights for the Huskers top plays, and you look even back like 3 or 4 years, which you forget, or maybe you do remember, we used to get obliterated. We're 3 years away from Ohio State putting up 60 points. And Michigan was up, 35-0 at halftime that one year. And so, I think when you kind of anchor it in some of those games where you're like, we lose 48-0 and 49-0 and just score some pity touchdowns. So I think when you have objectively the Joel Klatz and the Kirk Herbstreits of the world that are like, this team is really close, objectively really close, and Michigan made the playoff, and we should have beaten them. It's encouraging to me that it's not just the Kool-Aid coming, and it's actually like external people being like, you guys actually have reason to be optimistic.
Redcast Dave and I flew out in 2016 to the Ohio State game, and we were 7-0 and ranked in the top 10, and nobody knew how good or bad we were because the schedule wasn't, crazy, and Oregon wasn't very good, and we beat Oregon to go 7-0. And we go to Wisconsin, and we lose in overtime at Camp Randall and go 7-1, stay in the top 10. And it was the loss that actually gave me more hope. I was like, oh, my gosh, we just lost in overtime at Camp Randall. Wisconsin lost in overtime at Camp Randall earlier that year to Ohio State. We're not far away from Ohio State. I think I was more confident after the loss. So we fly out to Ohio State. We're talking football the whole time. All these other fans in the plane start talking to us. A couple of them said, you guys should do a podcast. And well, what do you think Nebraska? Yeah, what do you think Nebraska's going to do? And I'm like, well, I don't know that we're going to win the game, but I think it's going to be a 4-quarter game. I feel that confident coming out of Camp Randall. And to your point, Dave, 62-3 later, it wasn't a 4-quarter game. Honke gets shit wrong all the time. It wasn't a 4-quarter game. It was a 4-play game, and not even that. It wasn't competitive.
And now Honke, last year, Nebraska had the ball up on Ohio State with 5 minutes to go in the game and lost. I mean, that's how far we've come. Up by, I think we're up by a couple points, maybe 3 points with the ball, 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, shutting down the running game. Yeah, I mean, I
don't think I don't think guys like Mickey Joseph and Whipple put their career in this position if they thought they were walking into like a burning building. I think like Mickey Joseph could have gone anywhere he wanted, and the fact that he came home, he knew he wasn't walking. At least I'd like to think he wasn't walking into something that was just going to like light on fire and his career would be over, right? Like I think they think they can. There's a lot of pieces here they can do something with.
I agree. Well, I did it to you, Dave, so I'm going to do it to Jim here. You tweeted it, and interesting comment today from Benning. Interesting comment today from Benning on the wide receiver not on this list, Brody Belt. Mark my words, the most pleasant surprise after spring on the offensive side will be Belt. Write it down. Say DB said, take it to the bank. He's for real. We talked about Belt earlier. I don't know if he's running back or wide receiver, but your thoughts here, Dave. Or sorry, your thoughts here, Jim.
Give it to Jim, and then I'll jump in.
Thoughts, yeah. No,
Jim in Florida.
I wanted to share that because I think that's interesting. He took a pretty hard stance, and when he does that, I tend to pay attention and find out, hey, what's kind of going on here. And then you had another article from Sam McEwen about Belt. So I don't know. I mean, obviously we have 1 day of practice. So what exactly do they see in this off-season workout that makes them excited about Belt? I'm curious, just like anybody else. So I can't add too much more to that, but he definitely, if you heard that segment, he was like, mark it down. I'm telling you right now, this guy's going to be legit. So,
yeah. And this is in spring ball, and this is a time when you get the walk-ons that build their names up and they get out there and play more and everything. They get you excited, right, Dave?
Yeah. Look, I think the only thing with Brody is like it's more like the concept of it, right? Like where we've seen like Wyatt Lewer is our like number one wide receiver when you have a roster of like Omar Manning and Xavier Betts, and you're like, how did that happen? And like I look at, we've got 7 4-star running backs. And you're going to tell me a walk-on is better than all 7 4-star running backs. And it's like, then fire all of the recruiting coordinators. Like, how do you have 7 4-star running backs that aren't going to see the field and Brody Belt's going to be your guy? If he turns out to be the guy and he's phenomenal and he's the next Rex Burkhead, fine. I'm all for it. Like, that'd be phenomenal. I guess I just look at like, similar to the Wyatt Lewers of the world where you're like, what happened to like, the 9 4-stars that we recruited?
It's more about, if recruiting rankings mean anything, you typically want your 4 and your 5 stars and all that being the guys that are going to be playing. But, hey, I'm also a walk-on guy, and I love seeing the walk-ons that can, find their way onto the field. Next one up here, Jim. Speaking of, looking for guys getting onto the field, here you go. I'm always looking for a player that can change the performance of the defense by being a dynamic. And you're talking about Jamari Butler here. Butler was a sack artist in high school. Now he's added the necessary weight for the 3-4 outside linebacker. Can he be the pick to click in 22? Will be fun to watch. Can he be, whether we get a Mathis or not, can he be the guy, Butler, that, breaks through next year, Jim? What do you think?
Well, last year I thought it was going to be Feldarius Payne, and he did have a good first 2 games, and he disappeared after that. So I'm hoping so. I mean, I think it's his 3rd year now. So this is the time where Butler and Gunnarsson, I mean, this is the time where they got to step up. This is their 3rd year. So if he can and have a successful spring and get him catapulted into the fall camp period, I like Butler. I like him a lot. It sounds like he's had a really good offseason, and I think at one point he thought he might transfer at his first year, so he stuck it out. And he figured out how to dig deep and stay here and get through that COVID year, and now he's got opportunity. So we'll see.
Yep. And last but not least here,
oh God,
this one cracks me up here. So it was that great Gene Smith, Ohio State athletic director, said that the scheduling portion of the alliance is essentially over. The Big Ten will likely stick with the 9 conference games. So the alliance was the 3 conference alliance between the ACC, the Pac-12, and the Big Ten, and they were going to have an alliance to try to, counter, I guess, the SEC. And your tweet, bah ha 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 ha, the alliance was the dumbest. Oh yeah, we'll show you weak ass move to SEC muscle, and now it's over before it ever began. Another feather in the cap for Kevin Warren.
This guy's unbelievable.
Go for it, Jim.
I mean, he tries to shut down the entire college football season in 2020, right? And that's his intro to college football. And then they start this. I mean, it's like a spite league. Like they just get all upset about the SEC and wanting to schedule these games, and then it's nothing. And you have Gene. And by the way, where is Kevin Warren? Where is he? I mean, does he ever speak? Does he ever tweet anything? You ever hear from the guy? I mean, he makes like $5 million a year to do nothing. I mean, he's got opportunity to make a big splash with the TV deal coming up. Maybe he makes a name for himself there, and we're all happy with what kind of money we get. But I don't know. I mean, this alliance is just. I mean, what was that? I mean, they had a logo and everything.
They had a logo and everything.
I mean, it upsets me. I mean, I make fun of it, but it really at the bottom, I get upset by the fact that SEC takes this stuff so much seriously than we do. And we have, I call them the bow ties, but we have these guys that run these universities that just don't care about football. You have a guy that's in his basement here in Minnesota. I mean, what are you doing? Like, be a Big Ten, be a commissioner, act like I follow Greg Sankey on Twitter. That guy tweets every single day about sports, about the SEC, about himself, jogging, whatever it is. But you know who Greg Sankey is. Where's Kevin Warren? What are you doing? Stop creating these alliance leagues and go out and put football, put athletics at the top of the forefront in the Big Ten. I don't see that. And just one more thing to me that just irks the hell out of me with this guy. But yeah,
Rob said it earlier. 311. Well, 311 is also the vote that they had back in 2020, and forever it's a feather in the cap, I think, of Nebraska and Iowa and Ohio State. Those 3, they voted to play football. They voted to do something that, for some reason, it was convenient for 11 other schools to try to back out of. And Kevin Warren completely misjudged the room when he thought that every other conference was going to follow suit.
Yep.
And we did everything we could at the university level, and I think that those guys, and thank God for the Big 12s and the SECs, that we wanted to play football, and whether we got crapped on for it or not, we wanted to play.
And Jim, sitting here listening to you on your rant here about Kevin Warren, and you keep saying you want him to do something, but do you really? I mean, based off of everything he's done so far, do you really?
No, I want him to be gone. The guy's a joke. I mean, he's run our league for 2 years now, and aside from trying to kill football, I mean, what else can you possibly do to come back from that? No, it's a good point, Rob.
Would you say he's the Bill Moose of the Big Ten?
No, I'd take Bill Moose over Kevin Warren any day.
All right, well, I think it's parting shot time now, and I'll start off. I'll get mine out of the way, then I'll go to Rob, and I'm going to let Jim and Dave have the last words of the show. My parting shots, we have two of them. I have two of them. Trev Alberts, he said 37,000 tickets have been sold so far for the April 9th spring game. He has sent out invites to Husker greats like Sue and Zach Taylor, and it'll be your first chance to see all the new additions that we talked about tonight. So we kind of threw out the buy your tickets now, Redcasters. Go to Huskers.com, get those tickets purchased. And Rob is coming down for it. I think we're going to try to do some kind of Redcast tailgate or something. So be paying attention to future shows, episodes, and we'll get some of the info out on that. But I can't say enough about Trevor. My God, we've gone an hour and a half, guys, and the other tangents we could have gone in, and I know the thoughts I've had. You and Dave and Jim and I have a whole side DM that's been going on for months, and some of the best football talk goes on in there. But Trev's got his fingers on a lot of things here, and I think he's the right guy for the job. My second parting shot, Boulevard Brewing is honoring Alex Gordon's 14-year career with a limited edition beer, Gordo's Golden Ale. Portion of the proceeds will be donated to Alex's Lemonade Stand Foundation for Childhood Cancer. Royals Charities will match the Boulevard's donation. Rob, I think, did you mention something about someone from Alex's Lemonade Stand?
I do. So, and Dave, if Redcast Dave was here, he'd be making fun of me for name dropping, but I think this is a name worth dropping. A good friend of mine from Petaluma, out in California, Heather Banaszak is the promotion. I believe she's like the special promotions coordinator for Alex Lemonade Stand. She lost a son to childhood cancer just a few years ago. They moved from California out to Kansas City so that she could be a part of that foundation. And if Banaszak sounds familiar, her husband played football at Fresno State, and her father-in-law was a lineman for the San Francisco 49ers back in the day. And so there's that Rob name drop, but she's really big on it. She's going to be sending me some more information about ways that we can help as the Redcast, not just for buying the beer that's going to be donated for Alex Gordon, but the Redcast itself too. We'll probably be putting something together here in the near future. Because look, they're friends of mine. They lost their son. I don't know what else to say about that. And I see the way Husker Nation comes together for people in need, and it's amazing. So hopefully we can do something to help them out as well here on the Redcast.
Rob, parting shots.
Well, first off, I noticed a lot of people on here commenting and, liking our page on Facebook. Do me a favor, drop into Redcast DMs, whether it's on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, and send us a message. And if you want to shoot me your address, I'll mail you some Redcast stickers. It's all the merch I got to wear right now, but at least we'll have you on our fun mailing list. So if we do start sending stuff out with our promotions. So if you want a Redcast sticker, hit me up. If you want to wait until I'm out at the spring game and you want to come meet me at whatever event that we are going to be doing, I'd be happy to bring the stickers then too, which I do plan on doing. I want to thank Jim and Dave for coming out here and chatting with us this week too, because that's awesome. I love to put faces to the Twitter name, and Dave, you actually look semi-normal, so that's good, because that's not always the case, right? And Jim, I don't know if you're going to be in Lincoln again for the spring game this year, but let's do another.
That will be.
Let's do another sit down there at the end of that.
We did a sit down last year after the spring game. It was Rob and Jim and I from Redcast headquarters there at the embassy. So
that's what we'll be again this year.
And now we'll have this great platform to be able to do it. And Rob, to your point about you got the stickers, I'm sporting one of our kind of prototypes for some shirts that we're kind of working on. Again, that should be some stuff that should be coming out in the future episodes. And I want to throw a plug into follow us, subscribe to us on YouTube. We're just trying to build those numbers up. We're trying to get as many videos out there. If you watched last week's stuff on YouTube, you'll notice that we had the full length show, and then we even split it into segments. And I'll see with this show here, we'll have it out there. My goodness, an hour and 40 minutes, but I think I can split this probably into a couple of segments as well too. So for people that want to kind of consume their content at different lengths there. All right, Jim.
Yeah, so I have two parting shots. I think one, obviously Redcast 2.0 has been a huge success, and I want to thank both Rob and Honke for having me on here and playing warm up band to the Husk Guys. But I do have some news for Husk Guys. I paid a large sum of money for the followers of the now defunct other fan that is no longer on Twitter. So I'm about to be the largest Husker fan account on Twitter. No, thank you. I'm excited. I think playing off the 2.0 theme, I think we see a Frost 2.0, and again, it's March 1st. But I like the signs. I like what he's been doing, and let's see how it rolls into to next year. So
it's awesome. All right, Dave.
Well, I think parting shot, I would echo that. I appreciate you guys having us on. I think it's fun. Love chopping it up. But parting shot is like, I think where we started, have some fun with this, right? I think like this is the best time of year, right? Like the off season is way better than the in season. Have some fun with it. Enjoy the momentum, ride the wave, and try to, build back up that passion, I think, for Nebraska football, because I think we're going to need it in the fall. So, to Husker Nation, let's have some fun this spring and let's see where it happens.
Absolutely. Keep the faith, Redcasters. Thank you so much, Dave from Husk Guys. Jim in Minnesota. Follow them on Twitter if you're not already. And we'll catch you next time on the Go Big Redcast.
Go Big Red.
Yeah. Go Big Red.